Hi, everybody. Ty here. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to really quickly explain a couple of the numeric data types in Python and float and what the difference between the two are. So to keep it super short, super simple, integers are going to be any number that is a whole number, meaning it does not contain a decimal. Those are going to be integers in Python. Floats are going to be all numbers that have decimal points. Integers are great for counting through loops. You want your loops to stop at 5, you want to use integers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Floats are great for doing things like representing the irrational number pi. You can't accurately represent that with a whole number, right? There's no way to represent 3.14 with the number 3. So you need to be able to accurately represent whole numbers and decimals, right? So with that said, let's take a quick dive into a little bit of code. And hopefully these examples will give a little bit of clarity if you are confused about integers and floats. So you can see here, I already have defined my main function and the little snippet of code that runs my program. So let's dive right in. I'll declare a few variables, call the first one first number, and I'll set it to an integer 5. There's another variable, second number, and I'll set it to an integer 10. And let's call third number, and I will set it to an let's set it to a float of 4 and fourth number. Let's set it to an integer or a float, excuse me, of 20, right? So you'll see here that 5 and 10 are both integers. Why? Because they're whole numbers. 4 and 20 are both floats. Why? Because they have decimal points. Even though they're 4 even and 20 even, they have decimal points, so they are floats, right? Now, if we work with these numbers, there are a couple really big takeaways that I want you to have from this lesson. The first one being, if I add the first number and the third number together, so let's print this. Right? So right here, I'm adding an integer and a float. What am I going to get back? I'm going to get a float back. Anytime I do mathematical operations involving an integer and a float, I am going to get a float. If I do mathematical operations involving two integers, so first number minus the second number, right, and run that, then I'm going to get an integer back, right? Even though this went into the negative, it just gave me -5, right? Didn't give me a float back. Now, if I do division, let's say print the fourth number divided by the first number, right? What am I going to get back? It's going to give me 4.0. And you might say, well, yeah, it's going to give you 4.0. You just said anytime you do any operation with an integer and a float, it's going to give you back a float. So duh, it gave you back 4.0. But also, anytime you use this single slash to do your division, you're going to get a float back unless you tell Python to give you something different, which we will teach you how to do in a later lesson. But this single slash for a division operator is called floating point division. So you are going to get a float back anytime you use that single slash for division, right? If you want to actually in another lesson concerning remainders, you will likely be taught about the way to get back an integer using division in Python. but that is outside the scope of my lesson. So for today, just know that adding two integers gives you an integer. Adding an integer and a float gives you a float. Adding two floats obviously gives you a float. And dividing with this single slash is going to give you a float. Integers, whole numbers, floats, decimal points, right? Quick, hopefully simple, hopefully to the point. You all have a great day. We'll see you next time.